Hello. In today's video we are going to talk about the origins of basic medical terms. Many words that are associated with the medical profession today originated in the distant past and reflect the conditions in which doctors worked at that time. As noted above, words can sometimes serve as a valuable source of information about the past and reveal characteristics of medical profession that have not been preserved in any other types of sources. In addition, understanding the meaning of the origins of basic medical terms can help young and aspiring physicians gain a deeper understanding of the roots of their profession and feel themselves as part of medical community. In the first section we will discuss medical terms that are common for medical language around the world. For example, our first word is doctor. The word doctor comes from the Latin, where it meant a teacher. Physicians began to be called this word in the Middle Ages, since at that time only people trained in university had the right to engage in official medical services. So the word doctor in those times meant educated person. Now let's talk about roots iatros and iatria. The ancient Greek word iatros was used to refer to physicians or medicines. Another word, iatria, comes from the same root and means treatment. In modern language, both words are used as roots of some medical terms. For example, psychiatry, which means soul treatment, pediatric, which means child treatment, iatrogenic, which means generated by a physician, phoniatria, which means voice treatment, geriatrics, which means treatment of the elderly people, otiatry, which means ear treatment, and so on. The ancient Greek word pharmakon became the basis for such modern medical terms as pharmacy and pharmacology. For the ancient Greeks, this word simultaneously meant remedy, poison, spell, and enchantment, which indicates the relationship of these concepts in antiquity. However, according to etymologists, the roots of this term go deeper than the times of ancient Greece. It roots down to the oldest European languages, where it meant to cut, to boil, throw out, to collect, and even fortune-telling and witch. The word hospital comes from the Latin hospitalis, which meant hospitable, and then from the medieval Latin hospitale, which meant hostel or shelter. It came into common use from the Old French hospital, which meant shelter for the needy. This word acquired its modern understanding as places for treating sick during the time of the Crusades. In the Middle East, Crusaders founded hostels for Christian pilgrims, where they were provided not only with place to rest, but also with medical care. So that is how the word hostel gradually turned into hospital in European languages. The word clinic has deep roots. It came from the late Latin, in which the word clinicus had a lot of meanings. For example, a bedridden person or a doctor visiting ill person at the bedside. This Latin word descends to ancient Greek klinike, which meant the work of the doctor at the patient's bedside. The root of this word was kline, which meant bed. This word in its turn goes back to the old European kleiti, to cover, or klei, which meant to lean. It is interesting that a modern English word incline also means to lean and descends to the same root. The word clinic in modern meaning came into general use through the French language, possibly in the late 18th or early 19th century, when Parisian clinics became a universal example of progressive medical care. This word comes from the Latin patiens, which meant suffering or enduring. It descends to the Old European pei, which meant to hurt or to feel pain. In English from the middle of the 14th century, the word patient was understood as to tolerate without complaint. Now let's look at some old terms that went out of fashion. For example, Asclepiad and Aesculap. In ancient Greece, the Asclepiad was originally the word for any physician, because the name of Greek god of medicine was Asclepius. In English, this word is used in literature as a synonymous for the word physician. The word Aesculap is of the same origin, but modified by the Romans and used in Latin as a term for Greek physicians. In modern times, it is used for brand naming, for example in medical services or medical equipment production. One of the hospitals founded by Crusaders in Palestine was dedicated to caring for the sick of the most terrible chronic disease at that time, leprosy. The knightly order, which arose in this hospital, became known as the Order of Saint Lazarus. It was named after a character from the biblical parable, a leper beggar named Lazarus. The Order of Saint Lazarus devoted itself to caring for lepers, and therefore shelters for such patients eventually began to be called lazarets. During the plague pandemic in the 14th century, lazarets began to be used as the last refuge of plague patients. It put the lepers at great risk and led to their rapid extinction. After the plague pandemic emptied lazarets, they began to be used as a place for the quarantine stay. Therefore, the word lazarets had begun to be understood as a place for quarantine stay. Now look at some terms that are used in English language. For example, the word physician comes from the Latin physica, which meant natural science, and ancient Greek physike episteme, which meant knowledge of nature. In English it was accepted from Old French physique, which meant art of healing. The word infirmary comes from the Latin infirmus, which meant not firm or not strong, meaning weak, which in turn comes from Old European adher, which meant to hold, to support. The word surgeon comes from the ancient Greek chirurgos, which was formed from two roots, cheir, which meant hand, and ergon, which meant to work. So in ancient Greek it meant the work that is done by hands. The modern English surgeon is so different from its origin because it was distorted through a number of loan words from the Anglo-Saxon, Old French and Latin languages. It is interesting that Slavic word chirurg is of the same origin and also comes from the Greek chirurgos. The word nurse comes from the Latin nutrio, which meant to suckle, and also to nutrix, which meant wet nurse, that is a woman who breastfeeds someone's child, and also to the word nutritious, which means one that nourishes. To modern English it got from Old French nourice, which meant foster mother or wet nurse. Modern English nourish also comes from the same root. The meaning of this word refers to the role of the nurse in the hospital. She cares for patients and feeds them like children. Nurses in hospitals were commonly volunteers from monasteries. Therefore, nursing staff are referred to in some languages as sisters or brothers. For example, in East Slavic languages, the word for nurse is sestra, which means sister. This word has a similar meaning in Persian language, where hamsire means nurse and sister.